We are live. All right. Welcome to the Standard Array. Glad you could show up. Glad you're here. Thank you for showing up to one of our newest shows on Twitch and YouTube. We've been doing a few other ones, and this is one of our new ones for 2018. And we have a special guest with us tonight. It's funny because we know him at the moment as Snicklesox. We'll get to know him a little bit more coming up.
Yeah.
But at Snicklesox from Twitter, from the upcoming game, but we're going to hear a lot about Lasers and Liches and lots of other cool stuff. Just want to make sure that if you hit the follow button and if you want to subscribe to the channel, it always helps us out. And we're going to definitely give you plenty of information to find out more about this game, about Kickstarter information, and we'll be following up even after the stream. So if you missed something tonight, we're going to put it on YouTube. It's going to be on the VODs. We'll probably rebroadcast it, and it might not even be the last time. We're hoping to maybe get one other member of the team that we know of so far, and there may be more later on, and maybe we can get some more interviews with them. But let's jump into it. Let's don't bury the lead. Let's get right into it and introduce our guest. We know him as Snicklesox, but how about you tell us who you are?
Hi, yeah, I'm Snicklesox. You can just call me that from now on. No, my name's Chris Locke. I am the lead designer on the Lasers and Liches or Retroverse project, which is a 5th edition D&D, well, not D&D, but 5th edition supplement featuring lots of lasers and retro dragons and swords and, Star Wars references, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and some of the artwork has been fantastic, and we've got a bunch of questions for you. He was gracious enough to come and answer questions for us, so he may not be able to answer everything. He obviously has some stuff he has to keep ready for all of the marketing they're going to be doing and the releases they can do, but we'll try to wiggle out a little tidbit here or there for us. I have my co-host with us, PB. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello everyone, I'm PB from PB Plays Inside. You can find me on Twitch and YouTube. I just love all role-playing games and D&D, and I've been hearing and I've been seeing so much about Lasers and Liches, and I was so excited when I saw it because I just thought it looked so cool. And I was like, Lucian, we absolutely have to try. We have to try, we have to shoot, we have to see if we can get them because I want to know more about this game.
Yeah, it was funny because she even promised to do a whole new background inspired by your guys' art in the game. If we could get you. And then I sent her to, and I said, you're not going to believe this. He said he would do an interview, and she's like, oh no, I have to do it now. I'm like, yep, you have to do it now. So we're super excited. Like everybody can see, or was on the channel, you've been here before. I'm SirLucien, also a big time gamer. We run a lot of actual play Dungeons and Dragons, YouTube, but we're going to dive into it. Let's start with some of our first questions. Probably the most important question everybody wants to know, because I thought everybody has heard about this already, but maybe there's one or two people out there that haven't heard about this game yet. So I think everybody's really anxious to hear, what is this game all about? How was Liches and Lasers even born?
So it's a fun little story, but before that, I do want to just extend a thank you guys to having me on at all. I appreciate you extending the offer, and I'm happy to come aboard and just have some fun. This Liches and Lasers is sort of my little baby, so I'm happy to talk about it. But it kind of started with an accident. So I just gotten back on Twitter, and I was trying to do a little bit of promotion of a podcast that I was doing and a few minor things that I was working on. And I just happened to come across Uis's page. And Uis is the artist for this, and he's fabulous, absolutely amazing. I could not have stumbled across like a cooler dude. But he would post just some really awesome art with new monsters like boars with 6 legs and 8 tusks and a bunch of really cool stuff. And I just started putting like flavor text on top of them. So I would take his tweet, quote it, and be like, this is like a weird distant relative of a displacer beast or something like that, and give it some life. And he really enjoyed that. So he started following me, and I just kept doing that. And we had sort of this fun little relationship we were working on. And then he posted something he was working on, this Dragonborn or lizard folk with like a retro feel to it. And I loved it. It was great. I just immediately was like, hey, this is real cool, guy. You should keep doing this as much as you possibly can. And so we did a little bit more, and he did a neon dragon, which is like the centerpiece of a bunch of our art right now. And I posted some stuff about like this world and just some flavor text on what it could be. And I can't remember exactly who it was, but then some more people on Twitter was like, "Hey, so can I buy this?" Sure you can. Just give me about 6 months, and we'll see what we can come up with. And so I messaged Luis and asked him like, "So do we work together now? Is this a thing that we're doing?" He's like, "Yeah, I guess it is. So let's get started." And that's how Lasers and Liches was born. It was just sort of a fun, happy accident. We sort of stumbled in it together, and here we are.
So I'm so glad you guys did.
Yeah, me too. It's been really amazing, the feedback that we've gotten. I did not expect it to get to the level that it was. I didn't expect people to ask me to be on shows, for example. I just thought, let's make this thing, maybe a couple classes, some monsters. We'll throw it up on DM's Guild or something, and away we go. But the deeper we got into it, the more I learned about like the open game license and a bunch of this other stuff. And we've been doing a bunch of research sort of on the fly, trying to create exactly what we want to make. Because with the DM's Guild, it's great, but you can't use your own world. And then with Drive-Thru RPG, you can use the open game license, but there are certain things like I'm not allowed to use the word Dungeons and Dragons while describing the Retroverse. So, but that's all in the OGL. You can read all that. That's legal stuff, which is not exactly exciting.
So,
but yeah, so that's how it started. It was fun, just a little accident.
Those are the best kind, though.
I'm happy with the way it's turned out so far. But we also like the name Lasers and Liches came about just because we wanted something that evoked that. When you think of D&D, right, it's those two letters and it's nice and you know exactly what it is. And we wanted something that resembled that, but then was, legally differentiated from that. And it was either that or kobolds and keytars. And Twitter decided it was Lasers and Liches. So here we are.
You're saying the other one is still a great name too. So
it was a good one. It was a really close race, actually. I think it was like 51-49 by the time the poll was done.
Oh snap! So Lasers and Liches, almost kobolds and keytars.
It was almost kobolds and keytars, which kobolds and keytars was my baby, and I was rooting for it to try and make it that. But Luis had done Lasers and Liches, and I'm happy with the way that it turned out because it gives it more of a unique feel. A lot of people use keytar, or not keytars. Nobody uses keytars anymore, but everybody uses kobolds for stuff.
I bought it from Rock Band. I tried one.
So we've all seen these great pictures by Luis over on Twitter, and all the aesthetic, this whole retro 80s sort of almost like cyberpunky, I guess, feel to the game.
Yeah.
And so looking at it, you sort of know what it's going to be, and it gets you really hyped. But how do you tell somebody about it without actually showing them any art?
That's a very difficult question because a lot of it is tied to that particular aesthetic. So if I were trying to explain it to someone that had limited vision or something like that, I would have a really tough time. The best way I'd say probably is just it's big, loud, and dumb. And that's what we're going for, is it's going to be just like, maybe I would just set them down with YouTube's top 100 80s tracks and just say, this is what we're doing, except with swords.
Yeah.
So just, if you can imagine that, that's what we're doing.
That's so cool. That's going to be on the inside. That's the front page of the book, right? Big, loud, and dumb.
Big, loud, and dumb. I think I actually have written into, and everything's sort of in flux still as I'm trying to write everything. But on the first page, it says that the only rule that is the hard and fast rule you must adhere to is the rule of cool within Lasers and Liches. Everything else is important and it can be fun, but realistically, we're going for something that, like, it just needs to be big and dumb and fun. I don't really care too much if you break the rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like to think of it. Yeah, it kind of just it hit me in the head of just like an '80s mixtape, role playing game is what it.
Yeah.
It just drove me right to that. I'm grew up in the '80s. '80s formed all of my opinions, so I was like, I saw all of that, and I thought I'm in the right place when I saw this.
So we're trying to, like the 80s, great stuff, but we're trying not to just stick there as well. We're trying to dig back into the 70s a little bit and even go all the way up into the 90s and bring just all of that nostalgia together in this weird amalgamation of childhood memories.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And suddenly I'm even more excited about this project. I didn't think it was possible, but here we are.
So we'll keep an eye on chat. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, some of it's just like fun references, and so like in the test wave that we're going to release, the first mission had some references to Angry Beavers from Nickelodeon, and then like Chuck E. Cheese's, and some, some fun, weird stuff. Because with a universe like this, I'm not beholden to fantasy tropes. I can we can go nuts. Let's have some fun.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, we'll keep an eye on chat in case any questions come about. So if you see me or PB checking over, we're probably just keeping an eye there. Definitely put up your questions, and if we have time, we'll fit them in with what we've got and be interactive. We hope that that's going on. So everybody would. So is this your kind of first endeavor in making a game? I think we saw that maybe you've been DMing and you've been doing some other stuff, but is this like your first time designing?
So, designing specifically this, sort of. I've been DMing for a few years, and I tried to be very detailed with a bunch of my DM stuff because I wanted to eventually turn it into something. I thought that maybe people would like it. I'll make a campaign for my friends, and then, we'll test it out there, and then I'll put it up on something else. I've tried my hand at designing a few video games before because that's sort of the background that I came from, was more of a video game centric mentality, and I had some limited success with some minor projects that I'd made. Really got into Little Big Planet back in the day and made a lot of stuff there, which was very fun, learning just like the logic paths of everything. But as far as like a project of this scale and making something wholly from, well, not wholly from scratch, but almost completely from scratch, this is my first like big chunk of a project that I've ever taken on.
It's gotta be exciting and scary at the same time.
it's absolutely terrifying because things like this happen where people say, "Hey, I really like your thing. When can I buy it?" Oh, eventually, sometime. I'm sure I'll get it done eventually.
Oh my gosh. So
yeah, it's fun.
Oh man, and just like with the whole aesthetic and everything, and just going back in time, it has to be an absolute blast designing the game, right?
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, a ton of stuff has just been written to some synthwave music that I just load up on Pandora or YouTube. I also like to just go back and just watch a bunch of music videos from back in the day, because there's just a ton of inspiration in any one of those minor things. Like here's something I haven't talked about before, so here's a fun monster, the Karma Chameleon, which hunts down people who are evil and slowly transitions into them and then kills them and takes their place. So it's like just a weird name off to the side, like, no, actually this is a pretty cool monster, now we can turn this into something neat.
Yeah.
But then going back and watching just like Predator and any number of other big machismo 80 movies, that's been a blast.
Yeah, I was thinking like really... Dreamscape and Wraith, and there was a lot of those that had that interesting 80s movies, action movies, but they just started putting in computer graphics, so they were trying to put in that first wave of showing you like, hey, I'm in a hacker zone of some sort, or I'm in somebody's dream zone, and there's a lot of neon, a lot of so definitely
some Hacker Man, or not Hacker Man, Lawnmower Man,
and,
RoboCop 2,
the good stuff.
Get real weird.
Oh man, with things like Karma Chameleon, I can't wait to see what else you come up with.
Yes,
crap.
like I said, we're not beholden to any fantasy tropes right now,
Mhm.
so it's made it very easy to just get crazy. I know on Twitter we've released like a pizza slime, and yeah, it's super dumb, right? It's a slime made out of pizza, but also kind of cool that you're gonna fight a living pizza at the same time. Like,
I love it. Then yeah, and that's the aesthetic. So I'm so down. Oh, that's so cool. So have you done things like that in your in the game you DM as a for your podcast, right? Too smart for the room.
okay, so with that whole thing, I it's always so confusing because we do two different podcasts on the same feed, and
Oh.
so I always have to delineate it. And it was around December I had planned on swapping out the feeds and getting them two separate feeds, but then all of this happened, and I've not really had a whole lot of time after that. And that I haven't been able to get back even into that podcast. But Too Smart for the Room and Nameless D&D are two separate podcasts, even though they're the same feed.
Oh, okay.
Nameless D&D is the D&D podcast that we do, and we call it that because we have people send in a new title for each episode. So each episode is just a fun, different. Like we've had some really funny responses, and it's a good way to engage with the community and that sort of thing. They get a little shout out at the very beginning of the episode. Too Smart for the Room is sort of a self-indulgent but also ironic title because we just make a bunch of jokes about male genitalia, uh, but while trying to teach you something at the same time. So the whole conceit is that one of the members will research a topic very heavily, as heavily as they can, to really understand that topic, and then we'll do our best to teach you that topic in a humorous way. So we've had stuff that's like the origin of the animated skeleton, um, the history of the Macy's Day Parade, um, things like that are sort of weird nerd things that you might want to know, but then we make a bunch of jokes on top of it, or we try to make jokes. Hopefully, people find them funny.
Well, we know the big thing that I think attracted a lot of people just recently too was you were doing a raffle
Yeah.
on Twitter to get a spot to play in your one shot. As like it sounded like a test run or maybe like a one shot adventure you had put together, and both you and Uis would be in the game. It sounded like. How'd that go out? Because it sounded like you were pretty close to closing that raffle down. And were we able to send you like $50 to win on the down low, or?
So you can support me on Patreon. No, so it's not quite over yet. So there's still a chance to get in. We had done it instead of having like a time frame, do it like a follower count. So by the time we hit a certain amount, both Luis and myself, then we'll call the raffle. And I'm about 40 followers away, so real soon. And Luis is I think about 80, so not very far off. But unfortunately, we're not accepting bribes right now.
Oh, okay.
But
Even if it was like $100.
I mean, if you could just, when the Kickstarter comes out, throw it that way,
yeah,
I'll be very happy about that.
Well, I can foresee our channel doing like a test we'll be in the Kickstarter, I'm sure, and if they've got tests and going on, we'll definitely do a live run of it because we're super excited to play it on our channel here for sure.
I'm super excited to watch other people play it. I've been staring at this thing for so long. It'll be nice to see somebody else mess around with it and have some fun. With the Kickstarter and the test waves and everything, what we're planning on doing is having the Kickstarter and having several different waves of tests. So what we'll do is once the Kickstarter ends, anybody that backed it at whatever level, like getting in on the test is going to be like a pretty low level. But then if you back us for the full book and the full product, you'll also be in on the test. And so we'll send out the first wave that'll have a few classes. It'll have some magic. It'll have its own unique story that's about 3 to 4 sessions long is sort of how I've tried to design it. And some new monsters and everything, and that way you get to play in the retroverse while we work on other things. But then a few months after that, we'll release the second wave of the test with more classes, more magic, more monsters, a story that connects to the first story of the first test. And then we want to do that 3, maybe 4 times and give you basically a full module by the time it's all said and done that will not be the module that we're going to make for the actual product. So it'll be sort of like a Kickstarter exclusive thing that you get to play in.
Oh, no, that's super cool. That is super cool.
So yeah, I want to give everybody like fun time, play, have some fun,
yeah.
while we work on the rest of it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So talking about the Kickstarter, um, has there been anything that's just surprised you about doing the Kickstarter? Anything logistically or just non-logistically? Has anything caught you off guard or surprised you about it?
Yeah, everything. It's like, is everything an answer? Because it's there's a lot to it. It's not just I've had to research a bunch of like book printing and go with different companies and contact a few different companies on what we want to do, and we're trying to keep it very simple. I don't want to have a bunch of extra stuff that we're giving out as a Kickstarter reward. I would like to keep it to where it's like it's the books and then a few other items so that we don't have to spend, like everything that comes into the Kickstarter, suddenly it's all gone towards all of these other products, which would be fine, but I would like to make Lasers and Liches like maybe a thing that can continue to exist outside of having to do Kickstarters all of the time. So we're trying to keep it very simple, like books, there's a couple posters, a few other minor things, but we're not doing like a bunch of big t-shirts or like cell phone covers. We'll have all that stuff eventually, but it just won't be a Kickstarter like exclusive product.
Well, that all makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun trying to get it all set up, but like I've been watching a ton of other Kickstarters and trying to make sure that we're close to what they're doing. Like Kobold Press just finished they had a real massive one that was wildly successful.
Yeah, super popular. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to mimic that in a bit of a way. So it should be pretty cool when it's all said and done. I'm trying to make all of the tiers affordable, but also like ranked on exactly what you're gonna be getting. So a quick aside, I've got this time remaining 7 minutes.
Is it saying 7 minutes? Yeah. We'll take like a short break. We'll switch over to a transition screen that'll let everybody fill up their drinks and everything, and then we'll come back and we'll jump back in here in just a moment, and we'll get that back up and running. We probably have enough time for one more question, and then we'll do our break. Well, we should plug UES quite a bit too, because I know we want to make sure that right now it's a 2-man team so far, right? Is there plans for more? Or let's talk about UES before we say anything else, because his art is awesome. So plug away UES as much as you can. Tell us all about him. Tell him where we can find him, how we can, just anything the audience might want to know about him.
Yeah, so UES is one of the coolest dudes I've ever come across. And he actually lives over in Spain. So we have a very big time difference between he and I, which can be sometimes kind of challenging, but not all that much. What it means is that the Retroverse sort of never dies, like it's always going. Because if I'm not posting anything, then he's usually posting anything. But if someone wants to find him, they can find him on Twitter. It's LLUISABABIAS. And it's not just Retroverse stuff there, or Lasers and Liches. He's got a ton of really cool art that he posts pretty frequently. He's usually once or twice a day posting up stuff that's just, it's phenomenal. He's like an art-mancer. I could spend my entire life trying to get to his level and never be able to achieve it. He's just he's way up here when it comes to his art. Yeah, and, like taking this aesthetic is the Lasers and Liches aesthetic is kind of tough. Like it's not something that just everybody can do, and he does it with such just such finality. It's so good.
Yeah, he has good vision and just a good creative touch to it, and it drew me immediately. I look at a lot of Kickstarters or a lot of games that are out there. I've got folders on folders of role-playing games, and the first picture grabbed me, and I've not seen a picture yet that I didn't go, oh, that would grab me too. Oh, that would grab me too. Oh my God, that's another good one.
Yeah, they're big, they're loud, and it's just, it's so immediately, as soon as you see it, you know what's going on. Like, you don't really need a whole lot of explanation. There's swords and a frog guy, and there's a keytar. I'm in. I like this, which is a really cool reaction for everybody to have. It's also worth noting that he has got an amazing just imagination beyond art. So we have in our sort of shared file that we're working on, it's just Luis's crazy ideas is what the file's called. And I'll dive in there every so often and just come out completely inspired. Like, all right, so Triceratops as a race is now going to be really cool.
Yeah.
Because he wrote a bunch, which makes my life so much easier when I see that he's already got a couple ideas, then I can actually like pound out the details and make it look, make it actually function within the 5e universe. But it's wonderful having him on the team because Lasers and Liches would not exist without him. Like, without a doubt, this would be a fun thing that maybe I could work on, but it wouldn't be anywhere close to where it is without him.
All right, cool. Well, let's do this. Let's give our guest just a break. We've had him talking this whole time. We'll just give him a couple-minute break. We'll go to another screen. You can ask questions in chat. We'll keep those, and then we'll come right back. And he offered to be here for an hour, so we're gonna take him up on it. And we got some more questions for him. So be back in about 3 minutes. We'll come right back on the top of the hour, 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
That'll look cool.
All right, now they can hear us back as they watch me transition our cameras. We had to bring them back in one at a time, but I think we've got them all back. Perfect, we are back. Yep, Graybeard, you should hear sound any second now. We had it muted while we were bringing the cameras back online, so I think you should be good. Let's go back in. We are ready. He's going to stick with us. He didn't give up on us, which is super cool. And let's jump back in. So let's.
We're gonna give you up. Come on.
Yeah. Let's get into maybe a little bit specific. So you had mentioned the OGL. So it's obviously kind of based off of 5e system of rules. It's kind of where you started your base, at least. I'm sure you're changing plenty of stuff. What attracted you kind of to using the 5e base, or maybe looking at what the Pathfinder people were doing, or maybe going out there and finding one of the other game systems like the Apocalypse? A lot of people are licensing or using. I don't know if they're even licensing. Might be able to use the Apocalypse engine or all those other ones. What brought you to that?
I know 5e is pretty much it.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I've been running it for a couple of years, and I'm pretty comfortable with the system. Not that I know the whole book or all the books frontwards and back, but I have a pretty good idea on how everything works, the damage ranges on things, how spells function, and so it's just easier. I've played a bit of Pathfinder. I'm not super familiar with that system. I've played a bit of Mutants and Masterminds, and as much as I like that, I feel like it's a little overly complicated, and so it wasn't a system that I wanted to go with. Basically, 5th edition is easy. People are able to jump into it really quickly, and I like it a lot. I feel like it splits the difference between something like 4th edition, which is very technical, and 2nd edition, which is technical but also promoted role-playing, probably harder than many of the other editions. Mm-hmm. And I started actually playing in 2nd edition and played that way for quite a while, and I enjoyed it. Thaco is terrible and was always going to be terrible, and anyone that tells you that it's good is just trying to apologize for it. Thaco is terrible.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to just roll a d20 and, add this, and yes, I hit. It's great. Don't make me do your backwards math.
Yeah.
At my tabletop role-playing game where I'm supposed to be a dumb orc. I don't want to be doing calculus.
Yeah, it kind of feels now like it's a system built for a role-playing game versus a system that was built to supplement a tabletop war game. right? Because that's really what it ended up being when they started. It was, we want to have some heroes in there, but we have these big armies that we're moving around. Let's build some rules that are going to work with both things. And then 2.5 started to say, well, let's get it. They were just adding rules on about heroes, but they really had never gotten away from, we started as a big war game and we're playing individual units instead of just big units. I think 4 wanted to go a little video gamey maybe, or a little, a different route that people weren't ready for yet. Maybe it could come back around. We don't know. If you're a fan out there, we don't want to, harsh on your thing. If you like it, you like it. That's cool. No big deal. But 5th definitely feels like a tight game system right now that has a little bit of everything you want and does it with enough, that DMs can really get into it, players can really get into it. We've had a great time learning it and playing it. That's what brought our groups together, was we all decided, hey, let's play Dungeons and Dragons again. And we're like, well, what do we want to play? 3.5 again? And we're like, no, let's jump it. Let's embrace 5e and do it. We haven't looked back since we said that. So that was pretty good.
5e it's a wonderful system. I feel like it balances everything that you need it to balance. It's very easy to jump into. The rules are not overly complicated, though you can get there if you really want it to. You can play it like a war game. You can play it with theater of the mind, which is my favorite way to do. And all of it just works together in such a beautiful way. So, to answer your question, is 5th edition is just kind of really cool. It's super awesome. So let's stick with that. Also, it's the most popular right now. So
can't go wrong.
Most people know 5th edition above all sorts of others. We do. So there's plans to maybe go down the Pathfinder route and maybe go down the Starfinder route, but that really depends on how successful the Kickstarter is and everything. If we just barely hit our goal to be able to print the books and everything, then that's several years down the road. If it turns out that it's a wild success, then maybe I bring on a couple people and, okay, now teach me how to do Pathfinder. Teach me all the Pathfinder.
That's cool.
Let's see. So a question from chat.
Oh yeah.
To go back to Uis for a second. Is Uis just an amazing artist, or does he also in game and do RPG stuff?
Oh, he does game quite a bit, as far as I understand. He used to DM himself, but he is playing a mammoth centaur right now, I think, or something like that. It may just be a centaur with a bunch of mammoths on it. I'm not totally certain exactly what he's doing.
We want to know more.
But dude's got a crazy imagination, so it's a lot of fun to work with him on that stuff. And I know he's run games in the past. I know he has taken a step back, sort of same as me, to work on this project. And but yeah, he's a huge avid player as well. I don't know any other systems he's played, but I know for sure that he plays 5e quite a bit.
Yeah, he put a picture out today on Twitter that was my new Warlock picture that I had just seen. He's like, I drew this a while ago, but it stands up really well. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. It looks like a really cool Warlock holding up a book that's kind of floating above his hand. I mean, the art on it is just amazing, and the stuff he puts out is so good.
And he just sketches it out like it's no big deal, man.
Yeah,
he just creates this masterpiece, and everybody's just like, yeah, it's a big deal. I'm the best artist that's ever lived.
I can't make a stick figure look good, and he's killing me.
Like, I sent him the only picture I've ever really drawn beyond our campaign was a creature that was what happens when a spider is given like forced evolution, essentially. Mm-hmm. It had a bunch of wings and a scorpion tail and like some extra arms and extra mouth. And it was pretty cool. I was very happy with it. And he's like, hey, do you mind if I draw this? Oh yeah, sure. I'd be honored if you did that. And then he came back with this amazing, beautiful creation that still gives me nightmares. Like, why do I even bother? I'm just never going to draw anything again. You're the best.
You're good. So we've definitely seen you guys have been really good about teasing some stuff out. In fact, I saw like a player's handbook cover that you were kind of putting out there a little bit. So a few things on there, but what can you tell us about, because this is what the players are here for now, what kind of playable races? We realize you maybe can't say everything yet, but if you can just tease them, what kind of playable races are the players going to be able to look forward to? Do you have an example of one or two that we could be able to play in this awesome game?
So, if everything goes right, we're trying to have 12 new races.
Okay.
Now, that's like if we hit every stretch goal out there. In the first test wave, we have 3 pretty much designed and ready to go that I can talk about, and that's the Wonari, the Sarens, and the Dragonborn variants. And the Wonari are basically wolf people that can shoot lasers out of their eyes, which is, I mean, sort of self-explanatory.
Yeah.
The Sarens are just basically Triceratops, but in both of those new races, we have 3 racial variants or subclasses or subraces, because we're trying to mix it up a little bit. So with the Wonari, there's like the winter wolves, and they don't shoot a laser out of their eye; they more use it as a target. So it gives them an advantage on like a ranged attack if they're using it. And since it's a racial ability, like once a day, that sort of thing, to balance it all out.
Right.
But then like the Gaia, or like the more earthy style of wolf, they have sort of like a Cyclops blast, but not like damaging. It just sort of goes out and can hurt or blind people around them. So that's one of the cool races. They've got some, I've built them to try and make them sort of, they depend upon the clan, but they've also got a very limited life. So as soon as they are born, their whole, like, by the time they're 5, they need to know exactly what they're going to do with their life. If they don't, they're sort of outcasts immediately. To give players some fun role play opportunities that they may not get in the normal 5th edition version. Because there's all the races are sort of long lived except for humans, and they're still kind of long lived anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So having something where it's like, no, you don't have any time to be moving every second of every day, is a fun role play opportunity. With the Sarens, it's sort of almost the opposite. Long life, but very. We tried to build them sort of like Bushido-like, very, like ancient families and that sort of thing coming together and working together, and codes of honor and that sort of thing, which doesn't follow the actual history of a bunch of that stuff but we wanted to make it more of the mythology that people enjoy. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to throw that in, and that's what it's going to be. But there's 3 different variants of that. Yeah, take this. We're making a world where lasers and dragons and all swords like intermix, and there's one person that uses music as their attack, like dubstep attacking. So, like, I don't need to be serious about a bunch of this stuff. But with the Sarens, there's 3 classes as well. There's like the Tri-Sarens. They have 3 horns on their head, and they can stab people with them, because why wouldn't you want to do that? And then there's the ones that they have like a bunch of just like frill horns all up their head, and they're more like traditionalist, and they're all about like the spiritualism of their ancestors and that sort of thing. And they have the ability to like call upon their ancestors to help them out in a pinch. And then there's the ones that they just have like a big nose of bone, and they hit people with it, because just like the Tri-Saren, why would you not hit people with your big nose bone?
There was like an 80s or 90s show that was dinosaurs.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them.
And that's what it looked like. That's what it reminded me of. But they were like they were human-like. They were like, it was like a family of dinosaurs, and one of them was the Triceratops dad. And it was just like that. When I saw that picture, I just thought, oh, that's just like that. That's just like, or Rocksteady and Bebop from, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was just like, yeah, these are big, strong dudes, really cool heads that you could do some great fan art with. And I just thought, it's like, oh, that's really, and even the dragon, the Defragger we saw as a Dragonborn, even that one looks really cool. So those are all super neat.
That's the Xenon Dragonborn. So we have 4 different types of dragons that we're trying to introduce into the Retroverse: Neon, Xenon, Tesla, and Laser. and they all do something very different. Well, they're all dragons, but then they also do a few things different beyond that. But the xenon is probably my favorite because in doing a bit of research, xenon is the chemical that they put in flash bulbs on cameras. So that big right there, that's what they do, and they're able to open up the frills and everything that they have on their face to be able to do that as an attack, which I realize is sort of like the that does a similar thing, but trust me, I've differentiated them a little bit.
Yeah, they're cool.
Also, the Xenon have more of like a chrome color because I think a fully chrome dragon is a really, really dumb idea that I want to explore.
Yeah, but needed in every game, really.
Yeah, like you're facing the chrome dragon. What are you gonna do? Nothing. It's the chrome. I'm gonna leave it alone.
Yeah. Worship it.
Yeah, I'm going to bow down. I'm going to become treasurer, a servant of the chrome dragon, because what are you gonna do?
Oh my gosh, exactly. So, what you've talked a little bit about it, but what cool things are players going to be able to have in this game?
Just fun times with friends, man.
Oh,
So we've built a bunch of different classes. We have 6 right now that we've talked about. There's a few more that, again, if like a bunch of stretch goals are hit, I think we're going to try and introduce 10 new classes. I think is sort of where we are, maybe 12. It depends exactly how much people enjoy it. But so you'll be able to play with a bunch of new classes. We're trying to take a bunch of new items and throw those in as well. And we're just using all sorts of inspiration from anything we can. So I just pulled up a quick list here that I've got, and this is just some notes. Samus's armor, and there's also, let's see, the Crash Bandicoot mask, a one-time use item. You take a full hit as a reaction. I just have Saved by the Bell, and it's just a literal bell. I don't really have anything written for that one quite yet. That'll be some fun. Let's see, Cat's Sword of Thunder, because I can make small references, and you'll understand what I'm trying to do there. But those are some of the like fun items, and we're also trying to make like some non-legendary things like sunglasses of protection or something like that that give you a +1 to AC and also make it where you can't be blinded so easily. You know, it's fun to look at just any sort of art or movie or video game music from that era and just take any single one of those things. Like RoboCop is great. What if you had RoboCop's armor? I think that'd be pretty cool. There's no reason you can't have it.
No, yeah.
Spike on the yeah, the helmet. You got a little spike. You can't move so well, so you take some disadvantage on dexterity checks. But it's got an makes your AC a 19 or something like that. Like it's it's trade off. It's pretty cool. But and you look like RoboCop, which is also
definitely the good luck.
Yeah, it's just what you need it to be. Like I said, the Lasers and Liches is just it's intended to be big and dumb. Let's have some fun. We don't need to be too serious here.
Yeah. Well, from the player side, it sounds very similar to what we got when 5th Ed came out originally, because it was right around that 12 and 12-ish, 12 and 10-ish numbers as far as player classes and races that you can play, subclasses and stuff. And obviously, when any game goes really successful, there's always possibilities for more and other cool stuff. And as a DM, you always get to add in your own stuff, so it sounds like people will be able to really let their imagination fly. Everything we've seen, it seems like thus far, has been player-based. But what's this world they're in? What are these people actually fighting? What are they going up against? What are some of the bad guys, that we're going to see out there that we haven't maybe quite been teased too much on the blast yet?
So we're working to make a bunch of new fun monsters, but we're also working on some concepts to rearrange the monsters that you currently know. So that when it's released, you have instead of just having we added 60 new monsters or whatever, it's like, no, we added 60 new monsters and changed the entire monster manual if you want. That's up to you. Um, so some of the new fun monsters that we've seen, there's the animatronic horror, which is basically what happens when you take one of those animatronic dolls from Chuck E. Cheese and then make him terrible, which they've done in Five Nights at Freddy's, yes, but mine's cooler. Then there's we're trying to make some fun, like original monsters that aren't necessarily tied to any particular time period. So there's been art of the Glass Shadow that has come out, which is whatever is on the other side of the mirror. Look into it, and you're like, I'm not sure that's actually me. So when that comes out of the mirror, that's what it looks like, and it's horrifying and terrible. But we want to make a bunch of, like, there's the dragons, there's the creature that is called the Beholder, which is legally distinct from the Beholder because the OGL has the Beholder in it for some reason. And like, we want there to be some cool monsters. I can't talk too much about some of the monsters just because we've been working on a few of them for a long time, but it's also one of the places that we've done, I'd say, maybe the least amount of work on right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've been working really hard on just making sure that you could play in this regular universe. And now that we've got that skeleton built, now we can start putting some meaty monsters on it.
Wow.
But when that's released, the two sort of new rule sets that we're trying to work on is corruption and shiny variants, because I love Pokemon, and so I want shiny Cobalt. But so the corruption is sort of like wild magic in that when you get it, you roll on a table, and sometimes it's a bad thing, sometimes it is a bad thing, but it's a permanent effect, and then you spread corruption yourself after that, which can be a very bad thing to happen. And corruption is not necessarily like, oh, your code has been corrupted, but more like it really depends on how you want to play your world. It could be, yes, the virtual code that created you is broken, or your genetic code is broken, or your spirit is broken in some way, because I don't want to limit the game master in I don't want to force them into this world that we're in. I would like them to be able to take, if they want, their totally fantasy, like period appropriate world, and suddenly there's an arcade in it for no real good reason, but you can use these rules to make it work.
Cool.
So the corruption is fun, and it's a stacking effect. So if your character's like, oh yeah, I got like a +1 to my AC because of this thing, but I also now my dexterity is forever. Do I want to keep that? That's up to them, and it creates some good role play opportunities for ridding yourself of it if you don't have the defragger, for example. With the shiny variants, this is one that I really enjoy, but it's very simple, and not everybody's going to get behind it. Not everybody's going to like it, but I feel like it offers some unique opportunities for GMs to change up the battle pretty quickly and very easily. And it's basically that any enemy you come across has like a small chance of being basically a different color palette.
Mm-hmm.
And based on that, they have some different abilities, maybe a slightly different mentality. So like if you come across a yellow goblin, who's like just bright yellow as compared to these yellow greenish ones over here, that one is a bit more cowardly, but is also faster. It tends to attack from behind, and it will behave in a different way than a normal goblin, and it'll give you some new roleplay opportunities. But then there's things like, I think I actually have just one that's called just Shiny, and they have a +1 to all of their stats, and their alignment has been swapped. So if you come across a goblin and this one sort of sparkles, he's lawful good. I don't know how this happened, but it's a lawful good goblin. So now we have some fun opportunities for the players and for the GMs to create a new story. And it took the GM 2 seconds to do this. It was completely random. They didn't have to worry about it, and then boom, it's right there. You've changed the game. You've changed the monster manual, for example, and given it sort of new life.
It's very cool.
And one of our last questions before we have to wrap up because the hour is approaching. what's the magic like in the world, and like, does it synergize with technology? And a question from the audience is, what's the internet going to be like?
So the internet is not non-existent within this. It's just something that we're trying to keep the sword and sorcery sort of mentality that people enjoy about 5th edition without breaking it too much. So like I haven't included cell phones yet because you can do that, but if we get too technological, then we're just making Shadowrun, and I don't want to just make Shadowrun. That doesn't sound like a whole, like, well, Shadowrun's great. Have fun with Shadowrun, but that's not what we want to make. As far as magic goes, a bunch of it so far has just been more references to 80s movies, and if I'm just sitting at the computer and I think, oh, that would be a really cool idea. So here's as an example, a bunch of the smite spells. I really enjoy those as paladin stuff, but it's a very limited pool, so I wanted to expand upon that. So we got one called like Revving Smite, and it's based off of, I don't know if you guys have played Devil May Cry, but I think in the 4th one of the characters had a sword that he could rev up like a motorcycle. That's really sweet, so we're just going to do that. So every time you cast this spell on this sword, it gets stronger, and it's a 1st level spell, so you can do it a bunch, but based on when you get the spell, it's that's how we've limited the power. So it's not, oh, I have the short sword that does 1d8 plus 14d4 damage. But there's that, and then I think I have Mom Spaghetti because memes are also fun sometimes, and it's you basically like berate your foe and do a little rap battle with them, and then for every ally that they have around them that can hear them, they take a certain amount of psychic damage based on whether or not they fail or succeed or their saving throw. Which I think might be cool if I could add a way for them to reverse it on you. So if you cast Mom Spaghetti and suddenly this goblin's a really good rapper, you take all the damage and it's really embarrassing for you.
Cool. So we got just a few minutes left. We definitely want to get the information we can as far as Kickstarter out, because I know you're probably getting started to ramp up. These will just be like short, quick fire ones.
Okay.
Do you have a date of when you're going to announce people can go to a Kickstarter webpage?
I'm thinking somewhere around very soon.
Okay. Very soon is like not in 3 months. Very soon is like in less than 2 months, less than a month.
Somewhere around like, it really depends on a lot of things.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm trying to shoot about a month and a half from now is sort of my goal. We want to have that test product, the first wave, done, completed, ready to go before we even start the Kickstarter. That way we can, like, when the Kickstarter ends and assuming it's successful, then we're able to just immediately throw it out there. We don't need to work on it anymore right now. We're not going to end up waiting on us to finish this so that you can play. As soon as the Kickstarter is done, you can play in the Retroverse. Awesome. It's not, it'll be an immediate thing. It also gives us the opportunity to sort of hit up some, maybe Geek and Sundry and talk to them and be like, hey, look at what we have. Would you like to look at this?
Yeah, good one. I tweeted a friend of mine. I helped them out a little bit at the Hyper RPG channel on Twitch. They do a lot of games that they put up, all different styles, all different kinds, and they're definitely a channel to check out if you might send them a message and see if there's something you can work out, because Zach is always putting together some really cool live play video or tabletop role-playing games and stuff on their channel, and I'm sure this game is like a cool fit for those guys.
I hope so. People seem to enjoy it.
Yeah. So I think we should end on our last question. What do you think there, PB? I think the last one that we have, there's a good one just to end the whole thing on.
Yep.
Why do I feel like I'm being set up?
That's a good one, I think. You want to go ahead and fire it off? Give it the last one.
All right. Do you have plans in case of catastrophic success? Just for you, Lucian.
Just drink a whole lot. No, I've thought about it, and because everybody has been so supportive of this project, and people reach out to me and talk to me and tell me, I really like this. Where can I buy this? I get emails and messages all the time, which is awesome. It's really amazing, and I cannot begin to tell everyone how much I appreciate their support. But I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. Yeah. So I thought about it a little bit, exactly, if it went like, oh, you don't have to worry about money anymore. Your Kickstarter made $4 million. Cool. Yeah, great.
You do have to worry.
Yeah, now I really have to worry.
Yeah. It's a much bigger burden. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would probably just make this my full-time job, because right now it's a labor of love, and it's been very enjoyable working on it. Though it has definitely dug into my amount of sleep. That, and my wife and I just had a little bit ago, which is real fun. A giant screaming pile of knees that sleeps with us sometimes has made it very difficult to sleep and sometimes work on this. But yeah, to answer your question, like I want to do something cool if it gets wildly successful. Lasers and Liches, sort of as a company, will become I feel like a staple. Like it will be around for a long time after that. I would probably bring on an editor or two, and probably a couple extra artists, maybe on like some commission basis, and try and just make this thing the biggest, coolest thing that we can possibly make it. But hopefully, I hope it gets that way. I that would be beyond my wildest dreams. But so far, this has also been way more than I expected. It was supposed to be just a fun, small little project, and now it's not that anymore.
Yeah. Enjoy the ride, because even no matter what happens, if the ride is fun the whole time, everything else is icing on the cake at that point. It's just that much better. So, well, very cool.
Even if we only like hit the goal, it's still a cool thing that we've produced. We'll be able to put out 2 books, maybe more if people like it. Yeah. That they will sit on my bookshelf, and I will say, I made that. It killed me, but I did that thing. Yep. So
groups around the world sitting at their table playing, could be 8 and 10-year-olds. It could be, the over 40 crowd. It could be a whole mix of everybody just sitting around at college or whatever, and they're playing this game that you created and UES created and built their imagination. I couldn't think of a better thing. I mean, we're doing like YouTubes and podcast stuff, but to be able to make a game, that's super cool. We're definitely envious of you.
So get the book and show it to my mom. Hey, Mom, look, it's my name right there.
I'm going to be like, I talked to that guy like one time. He let me talk to him one time. It was really good.
Oh, whatever. I'll be around.
Don't step on us little people. Just remember that thing. You always get that. So the links are in chat. We want to make sure you can check him out. Definitely get him on Twitter, because he's definitely staying super active and keeping everybody informed and always giving us cool stuff. At Snicklesox, we really should have asked you how you even got that name. Did he tell us that and I missed it, or did he just kind of glaze right by that?
That's like a 30-second thing.
Okay.
A crush I had in high school called me Snickle once, which was the name of a cat that a friend of hers had, and I thought it was really cool. And so in college, I had that as sort of my not nickname, but I used it for video games and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then I put an OX at the end because I really liked pirates. And then when I went to go make my PlayStation account, I misspelled it, and I put an S in there, so it was supposed to be Snicklesox, and then it was Snicklesox.
Yeah.
And you can't change your PlayStation account name.
Embrace the accident.
So, there it is. And I don't know why, but nobody has that name ever. Nobody's ever going to have that name. I can reduce it to Snickle, or Snicklesox. All 3 of those work. And it's pretty unique. Like when someone sees it, they're like, "Oh, I know that guy."
Yeah, there's not more than one out there. You're not going to see Snicklesox 54, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't have to compete with anybody when I make a new account. When I made my Elo account, nobody was like, Snicklesox.
So you can also check out the Twitter account for Lasers and Liches. They have a Twitter account too. They also have a website, lasersandliches.com. We also have UES. Pronounce his last name for me, PB.
How about the yes?
Oh, she's so good at that. I just like hearing her say it. Yui's out there. We're hopefully maybe he's watching too. We're thinking about you. Hopefully you'll come on our show at some point. You can check him out on Twitter. Definitely follow him. Fantastic artist for sure. All of this stuff will be in the down in the the area where we put all that stuff, the details down down below is what everybody always says. And I just want to say thank you very much for showing up to our show. We've got to keep you for an hour. You told us some cool stuff. You gave us some stuff that maybe nobody else had heard yet, so we got a little bit of a scoop. Maybe we can check in with you again down the road, couple months, 4 or 5 months, 6 months after you're in your mansion. You'll come back and talk with us a little bit more. And PB, thanks for being my co-host. You want to thank our guests for showing up too? I'm doing all the talking. I don't want to do all the talking.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a great opportunity, and just having me on is it's great. It's more than I could have ever hoped for. I did not expect this. I did not expect this to blow into what it is, and it sort of like warms my heart and sort of makes me feel like a bit of a rock star when people ask me to do these things. Like, yeah, sure, no problem, man.
I'm trying to talk you into going down to Gen Con because I think you'll get treated like a rock star down there too. They love when people bring new games. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, guys. Everybody, thanks for showing up to the show. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.